Clash of Clans is a variety of troops. This is every troop currently at the end of 2025. This is ranking them mainly on my thoughts on them, so don't be mad that Valkyrie isn't last. Super troops count as their own ranking, although they are higher than a good amount of troops, because they have special abilities. There's a total of 30 regular troops in Clash of Clans, but a total of 17 super troops. So in total, 47 troops to rank. Most super troops I never used and cannot use, so these are based on their tutorial. Before I go on to the ranking, this is only based on the home-based troops. So builder base and clan capital don't count as they're in their own villages and they're kind of different from regular troops as they don't really have housing space, or at least their housing space doesn't matter as much. Anyway, here's the ranking. At number 47 is the Goblin. The Goblin is like a barbarian, but even weaker. I've never really used this troop except maybe in the town hall it's unlocked in. They're like barbarians, being fragile, but are even more fragile and do less damage just faster, and do double damage to resources. This can be good for cleanup when you're attacking specific bases where the resources are outside or close to outside, but most of the time this troop will do nothing and be a waste of housing space. At number 46 is the Wallbreaker. The Wallbreaker isn't a bad troop to use for the first 6 town halls you unlock it, but as walls get stronger and defenses get stronger, you need to use a lot to get value, eventually needing 5 to get 1 wall, as well as Root Riders being unlocked a couple of town halls after you stop using it, which does infinite damage to walls, plus continues afterward with much more health. The Wallbreaker needs a huge buff in order to compete. At number 45 is the Barbarian. These aren't bad for the first 8 town hall levels, but using giants or golems instead is better as they have better damage and health. The barbarians are okay later on for small damage, but the main strategy is to place a bunch of them close to each other, making them have more health and do more damage. However, they suck against splash damage, which is the main part of the bases later on. At number 44 is the Apprentice Warden. I genuinely don't know what the aura does. I think it causes 20% damage reduction, but I'm not positive. What I am positive about is that the aura barely does anything. It has some DPS and HP and doesn't die immediately, so it's not the worst, but it's still pretty much a waste of housing space. Use healers instead. At number 43 is the Super Valkyrie. I don't hate the Super Valkyrie, although it's not perfect. It's a little stronger Valkyrie that spawns a Rage and Death. For some reason, it's 12 more housing space. I get it's supposed to be like Lumberjack, where it spawns a Rage and Death to boost other troops, but in Clash of Clans, the map is far more spread out, so it isn't always effective. Ice Golem has a cheaper housing space spell, it drops in depth, but the free spell mainly stops defenses, and most defenses have some range, so that's more effective overall. At number 42 is the Giant. The Giant is okay, until you unlock the Golem. Go Wipe is a much better strategy than Giant Smash. The Giants do good damage and health, although more competition grows as the game goes on, which is either troops or defenses, which either have more health or more damage. At number 41 is the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie kinda sucks after the town hall you unlock it at. While it's a bit stronger than a Barbarian and does area damage, it's 8 times the housing space and still sucks against walls. It's somewhat better after Root Riders are unlocked, as they can take down walls and tank while the Valkyrie takes down some buildings. That's why the normal and Super Troop version are not lower. At number 40 is the Super Miner. The Super Miner is similar to the Super Valkyrie, where it's a bit stronger with an okay ability, but too much housing space. Although the Miner's base ability isn't bad for a cheap distraction, the Super Miner is quadruple the housing space. The Death Bomb isn't horrible if the Miner dies near a few defenses. That's pretty much the only reason it almost has the housing space of a P.E.K.K.A. At number 39 is the Super Barbarian. If you played the Builder base, it's basically an enraged Barbarian. They aren't very good as Barbarians suck at Town Hall 11, where you unlock some super troops. They can be better if used right, but most of the time won't be very good. Not really worth boosting as you can only boost 2 at a time. At number 38 is the Super Giant. This troop isn't terrible, but it's not that useful either. It can be used in some niche strategies where you can use them for wall destroyers, Although the Golem or Root Rider is an overall better alternative for tankiness or wall destroying, their HP is enough to be a strong tank as well. They risk time death, however. At number 37 is the Headhunter. I know the Headhunter can be used well, but when I tried it, it sucked. Heroes aren't too big of a deal to require extra housing space to get rid of. Also, the Headhunter mainly slows down heroes, usually need a high DPS troop like the P.E.K.K.A. anyway, which makes them pretty useless. Probably not a bad troop, but in my opinion, it's mid. At number 36 is the Archer. The Archer isn't very effective, as it has little health and little damage, but unlike every other one housing space troop, the Archer is actually ranged. Not horrible for cleanup, but usually as a last stand for a bit more destruction percent or more resources. Hope to God that the Eagle Artillery is destroyed. I only use it specifically when I only have one housing space left. At number 35 is the Minion. It's similar to the Archer where it isn't very effective. Though it has a slightly lower range and lower health than the Archer, its DPS is a bit better. It's still not very good, but it is a better help against cannons. At number 34 is the Super Witch. It's not too bad as a support troop, although it could be worse than its original version in some situations, specifically because of limited time each battle. The Super Witch and its big skeleton is tanky, having more health than a max level giant. It's not the best considering its 40 housing space, which also means you can't bring many into a battle. At number 33 is the Ice Golem. The Ice Golem isn't that bad of a troop, especially as Guardian reinforcements. I don't really use this card as you could just use the Golem and use freeze spells. It can still be strong as a good distraction with its health and freeze ability, but isn't that interesting to me. When I first heard of its existence, I didn't think it was that interesting. It was just a worse Golem that spawns a freeze. At number 32 is the Witch. It's good for when you unlock it, but generally isn't bad later on. If used right, it causes some chaos with the skeletons and ranged area damage, but can be stopped somewhat easily due to its low health. Better than its Clash Royale version, though. At number 31 is the Super Minion. A high-range minion isn't that good as minions are usually played on the outside where the buildings aren't that far. It can be good if used like a balloon, where you place a tank ahead to protect the troop. As far as 12 housing space range cleanup super troops go, this is probably worse. Maybe if they were similar to the Minion Prince's henchman puppet, because those mainly focus on damage, not some more damage and range. At number 30 is the Dragon Rider, a slightly stronger dragon which only prioritizes defenses for 5 more housing space. At this level of ranking, the troops aren't that bad. It's somewhat okay, I just don't find this troop that interesting. This is literally the most forgettable troop in all of Clash of Clans, and that's probably true. At number 29 is the Bowler. It's mid as well. The Bowler is not too bad, a decent range troop for 6 housing space. There really isn't any ranged splash ground troops. It's best used with a tank. It's not that good, but isn't too bad either. Generally underwhelming, though. At number 28 is the Baby Dragon. It's pretty mid. Somewhat good as a cleanup troop due to it essentially being a stronger minion. Its tantrum ability means it's not best to place many close to each other. Its builder-based version is a lot better for that fiery sneeze ability. Both versions are good for sniping and cleanup. Not the best, though. At number 27 is the Super Bowler. The Super Bowler is pretty much just used for its extra damage and HP, as its new ability is pretty basic. The Super Bowler's boulder bounces 3 times, not twice. Its area damage is similar to the Super Archer, but with triple the HP and a bit more damage, but is almost triple the housing space. For the housing space, you could use a Lava Hound. It's still strong, though, just not the best. At number 26 is the Thrower. It's kind of like a Dragon Rider, just ground instead of air, meaning that it has to deal with walls and more defense damage, but is 9 less housing space. It has good damage overall. It's a bit better than the Bowler, but not by much. If used right, can be very good, a strong support. At number 25 is the Balloon. It's the slowest troop in COC, unless you count the Mountain Golem, because that might be slower, but does high damage. About half of the P.E.K.K.A, depending on the levels, and a Death Bomb. It's better with a tank. It's good by itself until around Town Hall 9, as a dragon is unlocked, but after that, Lavaloon's the best for it. At number 24 is the Yeti. The Yeti is somewhat similar to the Witch. It spawns a bunch of Wick units to distract and damage defenses, but instead of shooting ranged magic beams, just crushes defenses like a giant with a faster hit speed. Giant isn't that good of a troop even when unlocked, but the Yeti is a strong troop and one of the best tanks in the game. At number 23 is the Druid. The Druid by itself isn't that good. It's a ground healer with worse healing capabilities and worse HP, but turns into a bear after 25 seconds. It's a bit weird that the bear is slower than the Druid, but generally this is an okay support troop, although it's being ground and having less health than a healer should make it less housing space, even if it can turn into a bear if it can survive 25 seconds. Maybe if it was 12 housing space, then it could be pretty good. At number 22 is the Miner. When I unlocked the Miner, I completely ignored it. It's pretty much just a barbarian, but moves without being seen, but in return is 6 housing space. When the Miners are unlocked at Town Hall 10, barbarians become the most useless they've ever been. I tried it out and it worked. It wasn't game-breaking, but it's more of a distraction than barbarians, as they don't die in one hit. At number 21 is the Super Archer. The Super Archer is similar to the Magic Archer, but instead of a fixed arrow movement, simply hits 3 defenses before disappearing. Sure, the Super Archer is literally 12 times the housing space, but at higher town halls, it's good to have an archer that will do some damage and not die in one hit. At number 20 is the Furnace. It works pretty well as a support troop for chip damage. It's nothing game-changing, but isn't a bad troop for some damage and poison slowdown. Definitely better than the Clash Royale version. Probably not anymore due to the Furnace in Clash Royale getting a rework, but it still is somewhat. At number 17 is the Rocket Balloon. The Rocket Balloon is strong and reliable. The Rocket Balloon helps the balloon's worst trait being its movement speed. It's a bit stronger, but the best part is that it's only 8 housing space. Less than double. Great for close-by defenses, as its speed boost is only for 4 seconds. At number 16 is the Inferno Dragon. While the damage is slower than the original version, it does a lot more overall. Having the highest DPS in the game, although it ramps up to it, with not that much extra health. It's not that good against high-level air defenses, but overall is a great troop, especially since it's only 5 more housing space. At number 15 is the Super Wall Breaker. It's a strong troop that's better than the original, having much more health and damage. However, it's quadruple the housing space. Its ability just means it explodes at death as well, so that can be helpful against buildings outside of walls mainly. At number 14 is the Dragon. It's a good troop in general. It does good damage, has a lot of health, first ranged air troop, and that's about it. The Dragon isn't bad at any town hall in the game. It has decent housing space to work in many strategies. It can be used in Lavaloon, usually to replace balloons, and that's about it. It's a good troop, but there's not too much to write about. At number 13 is the Hog Rider. The Hog Rider is just a strong troop. It's the first troop that nerfs walls. Its speed, damage, and health are great in numbers. Mass Hog Heal isn't that good after Town Hall 12, but it's a very good strategy because of the Hog Rider. At number 12 is the Electro Dragon. The Electro Dragon is just a stronger dragon, with a slower hit speed, but sends out an electric chain with a max of 5. Really similar to the Super Dragon, just electric instead of splash and some lower stats. The self-destruction damage, while a bit random and doesn't do much, is still helpful in some situations. At number 11 is the Super Hog Rider. It's pretty much a Hog Rider, but even more annoying, splitting into 2 in death. The Hog prioritizes defenses, but the Rider doesn't. Meaning you do extra damage to anything with the Super Hog Rider, and it's stronger. 12 housing space isn't much for how helpful it is. At number 10 is the Ice Hound. The Ice Hound spawns a freeze spell when it explodes, and the Ice Hound and Ice Pup slow down defenses. It's a bit strong, like in its health, but its base damage is actually lower. It's still very good for 40 housing space, considering that it's a super version of the Lava Hound, which is only 30, so it's only 10 more for all that extra power. Not a bad choice, but I do think the original's a bit better. At number 9 is the Lava Hound. While the S-Hound is crazy, the Lava Hound is just better. It does the same job and is 25% less housing space. Unlike Balloon, this is good in many strategies, not just Lavaloon, guaranteed to cause some chaos. At number 8 is the Super Dragon. Its new ability, being area damage, isn't that helpful given you unlock Super Troops at Town Hall 11. And at that Town Hall, and around that point, you unlock Electro Dragons, which shape the meta to have spaces between buildings. Its damage and health are almost double regular stats, but it's a bit slower and double the housing space. Overall, a strong troop that can be used like the Electro Dragon. At number 7 is the Golem. The Golem is the biggest tank inside of Clash Royale. Not only does it have a lot of health, and def splits into 2 smaller units, and more the more you level it. Essentially a ground Lava Hound, but stronger to make up for it. At number 6 is the Sneaky Goblin. The Sneaky Goblin is surprisingly strong. Not only does it have extra HP and damage, it's invisible for 5 seconds, which is enough to take down most resource buildings. Sometimes 2, but it doesn't matter as the Sneaky Goblin is only 3 housing space, or the lowest of all super troops. The only problem is that you have to upgrade the Goblin to level 7. No one should ever do that. At number 5 is the Wizard. The Wizard is the most reliable low housing space troop for its high DPS. If you need some cleanup troops, Wizards are your best bet. Sneaky Goblins can be used instead, which are better against resources, but Wizards are deadly to all buildings. Much better than its Royale version. At number 4 is the P.E.K.K.A. The P.E.K.K.A is not only tanky, but has extreme damage per second. The best part of Go Wipe for its damage. The P.E.K.K.A is a very good troop that's insane for 25 housing space, at the Town Hall you would unlock it at. 25 Barbarians would do nothing compared to the P.E.K.K.A. Not to mention, its builder-based version is one of the only reasons I can beat bases. At number 3 is the Root Rider. The Root Rider is probably the most hated troop in COC, just walking through walls. The wall breakers and jump spell already sucked, but this definitely helped in that. The Root Rider had to be nerfed, and reworked just to be a tank that can walk through walls, and that's about it. The Root Rider Valkyrie strategy is very strong. A part of that is due to the Root Rider, but mainly the heroes. A little crazy for 20 housing space. At number 2 is the Electro Titan. The Electro Titan not only does good damage and has good health, it has an Electro Aura around it doing damage. While it's not that good against walls, with the help of Earthquake, can destroy some defenses. A strong but overall balanced troop, worth the 32 housing space. The highest housing space for non-super/clan capital troops. And at number 1 is the Healer. Similar to the log from Clash Royale ranking, the Healer isn't like super deadly or super tanky, it's just useful in any strategy. Giant Smash, healers in there. Go Wipe, healers in there. Go Wee Wee, you can put some healers in there. Mass Dragons, Masshog Heal, Yeti Smash, Electro Giant Smash, Root Rider Valkyrie, Thrower Yeti Smash. It works in all of them. Having a few can be helpful. Oh, and Lavaloon. Especially with hero walking. As well as the healer puppet spawning 2 or 3 if leveled up for free, and the unicorn. Queen walks or warden walks are an amazing strategy, and healers help it by a lot. This is all troops in COC ranked. If you're wondering, hero siege machines and pets and builder-based troops and clan capital troops will probably get their own video. If you're wondering why clan capital troops didn't count, that's because the Mountain Golem would be number 1. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you later.